Hello, I'm John Dodge, Community Manager of the Enterprise CIO Forum, here with the 5 and 5 Weekly News Roundup. What CIOs need to know. There are a few superlatives I can add that haven't already been said about the late Steve Jobs, but I want to make a couple of points that I made this morning in a comment at the Enterprise CIO Forum. Steve Jobs set the bar for excellence extremely high at Apple, but what's unique, he did it for more than 3 decades. And Apple, like all other public companies, has to live quarter to quarter. But how did he do it for such a long period of time? Now that's something for CIOs to think about when they want to set their bar for excellence extremely high and set it in concrete and have it endure. So I think look no further than Steve Jobs for examples on how you do that. A second irony, if you will, in the mid-90s, Apple got out of the server business, and it stopped focusing on IT customers. Yes, believe it or not, there used to be Apple IT shops. Well, Apple then focused on consumers. They've come full circle, and the products they've come up with for those consumers are reshaping IT in dramatic ways. And we have this whole notion of consumerization. And we're talking about the iPod, the iPhone, the iPad, and several other products from Apple that are really reshaping IT. They're democratizing IT. IT is no longer this lockdown fortress where they can dictate to their users what kind of computers they'll have and what they're going to be using in the field and what they'll be using as a mobile device. So I think those are two great lessons from Steve Jobs. Second up, the National Association of State CIOs just came out with a survey, the survey results. And it's no surprise that state CIOs are really focused on cost. States are strapped for cash, and we all know what rolls downhill. So what's interesting is they've also embraced collaboration, according to this survey. So they're consolidating a lot of their information systems, and this is driven by cost, but they're getting rid of silos. The big item on the state CIO radar is healthcare. Healthcare costs comprise 40 to 50 to 60% of state budgets. And Medicare and Medicaid, and states have to administer Medicaid, we all know the squeeze is being put on what they pay out. So this is really what state CIOs are thinking about. And I think CIOs in private enterprise are thinking about healthcare insurance and how that's administered. But when you're administering Medicare, Medicaid, and you're dealing with Medicare payments that are getting smaller and smaller, that's what you as a state CIO are going to be thinking about. Third up, an interview with Harvey Coppell from the Center for CIO Leadership was very interesting. It looked at the future of CIOs, and he called them chief procurement officers. In other words, CIOs are going to be brokers for services. They are going to go out and procure services for their companies. So he sort of sees this chief procurement officer emerging in terms of the CIO. A second thing he mentioned in this Q&A, which happened to be an information week, by the way, is sustainable business value. The CIO has to create sustainable business value. And they've created a core competency model to see if the CIO is capable of doing that as they move away from their exclusive focus on technology to talking the language of business and really understanding the language of business. A lot of good takeaways in that Q&A. Fourth up, what is Hadoop? Now, we don't really talk about technologies that much, or specific technologies that much here at the Enterprise CIO Forum. After all, we are advocating that the CIO get much more business focused and don't be so exclusively focused on technology. But Hadoop is coming up enough where I did a little research this morning. It is an open source distributed file system that's very good at handling large amounts of complex data and unstructured data. And we all know this is the way the world is going. We're deluged by unstructured data. And when I saw a tweet this morning that Microsoft was going to embrace Hadoop, I said, well, it's really time to have CIOs get this on their radar screen. So you might want to look a little bit at Hadoop. Finally, I want to talk about the Enterprise CIO Forum Minute that Bill Liberis does. He did one the other day, and the headline was, "What Millennials Can Teach IT." Let's break down millennials. Well, millennials are Gen Xers born in the late 70s and the early 80s. Gen Yers are even younger. They're born in the late 80s and into the early 90s. These individuals have never been in an unconnected world. They have never been without computers. Many of them have never been without a smartphone. So they are really shaping the future of IT. And the idea is that IT should really embrace these individuals rather than resist. And now, if you're IT from the old school, you're a baby boomer perhaps, IT meant something a lot different to you, but it really has been democratized to the point where you're better off embracing and seeing what you can learn from these individuals rather than fighting them. Anyway, there you have it for this edition of 5 in 5 Weekly News Roundup. I'm John Dodge, Community Manager of the Enterprise CIO Forum. We will see you again.